Thanks, Sarah. As Sarah said, I'm Deborah McDaniel. I've met many of you previously, but if you haven't met me, I'm the senior product person who overviews the ADAPT US product. And so today we wanted to go over the ADAPT Compass Mobile time entry and approval. And so we'll go through the process today. And after we review that process, we'll talk a little bit about some of the differences between ADAPT Compass time entry versus the classic web portal, because there are some differences there. We'll also touch on a couple of additional mobile portal features, which you may not be aware of, or maybe you've heard about them in the past, and just to kind of give you a refresher. After we go through that process, then we'll talk about the transitioning and some of the things that you may need to recall and remember as you're going through that process. So as we talk about the mobile time entry and approval, I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a high-level overview of the workflow. So in the beginning, you'll see in this step one, you'll have some setup for the candidate or the account, the contact user, because there are different users who will be accessing the self-service portal for their purposes. So that would be just done one time for each of the candidates or the contacts. Then the candidate, as they are ready to enter their time, they would log into the portal, submit their time, and then once they submit their time, the contact receives a notification which would give them a link to be able to sign in and approve the time that has been submitted. Some things that could also happen is the contact may reject the time. And if the contact rejects the time, then the candidate would receive a notification that that time has been rejected, and they'll have a link to get to their time to correct it. So we'll talk a little bit about this from the candidate's point of view. So the candidate will have a sign-in for their Compass portal, from the Compass mobile portal. And as we're taking a look at this, I'm going to flip over to the Compass portal so that you can take a look at what that might look like. So from the candidate's point of view, he'll be signing in to the portal to begin entering his time. Once he signs in, he's typically, I've typed my password wrong. Typically brought to the dashboard, but you just notice that the different options that the candidate has. So we're going to look at time entry as we're going through this today. So first thing I want you to notice is that the candidate has the ability to view timesheets that they have in process. This could be timesheets that they have begun entering for the week, and they're just entering the time day by day as they're going through the week. And so they just can enter that time, save it, and come back to it to make edits to it. You also have time that you may have submitted, but it's come back and been rejected. So you can easily see what that difference might be. Once they submit their time and it goes to the contact for approval, then it moves to the completed tab, so they can easily see what's either still waiting to be approved or things that have been approved. So they can easily see that whether or not it's completely done and now in their history, or whether or not it's still waiting. So now it's time to enter some time. So we're going to add some time. And if you take a look at what the candidate is seeing here, and this is a little different from the web portal. In the classic web portal, you would have the time that you could select, but oftentimes the user might pick that time and might get an error saying that, oh, you don't have anything that you can submit time for that week, or it's not valid. So we're only showing the weeks that are valid. And then based on this, we're also showing the assignments that can accept time for that particular week. So in this way, we're guiding the user so that they're not getting, error messages by picking the wrong thing. So once they select their individual assignment, and I'm going to select this for an administrator. For this administrator, you'll see that I've got time in an in-out sort of format. That's similar to what you see in the classic web portal, but the differences here is that this is showing an in-out with an out reason. So because we do it this way in the Compass portal, the user is able to put in multiple in-outs for a single day. And this helps to better calculate and show, once it gets into ADAPT, how those meal break premiums are calculated. Also, when they're going through the entering their time, they can easily see that they're not going to pick an invalid date here because it's only showing the days that are valid for that particular week that they're entering. So I'm going to pick here just this product engineer, and let me just add some time for them. So we'll just do this. It's really easy. We'll say it's 3 to, let's say it's 8. And that would be end of shift. So I'm just doing a short shift and putting that in there. And then I'm also going to, while I'm here, I'm going to add an attachment. This attachment is, let's say I've got to submit an expense report. And so I may put in here, please see expense report. If I can type. And you see, once I've added a note, it's easy to see that that note is added. So at this point, for this particular assignment, I'm going to go ahead and submit it. And you'll see that the approver here is listed as well, so they know where it's going. And now I'm submitting it, and it will give me a confirmation letting me know that that has been that time has been submitted. Taking us just a second here. There it goes. So it's taken me back. It's let me know that the time card's been created, and then it's listing that. When I refresh this, it will list that in my completed. So that time has been submitted. So from the standpoint of the candidate's time entry, you can see there's multiple formats that can be used for time entry. They can either use a weekly time format or an in-out. I just showed you the in-out. Let's show you a weekly. So for this particular assignment, it is set up to allow for the entrance of just whatever the total hours are for that period. So for this period, I've worked 8 hours, and here I'm going to also add an attachment. And for this attachment, I'm just going to give a department breakdown. So for that 8 hours, maybe I worked in multiple departments at that time, and I've got that information included, and I'm just going to submit that as well. And so that time will be entered, and it looks like I've got a little technical thing here, but that time will be entered, and it will work just as it did for the for the other timesheet and prompt that notification. And so save or submit, in the classic web portal, they had save and submit as well, so that you could enter the time throughout the week. Or in this case, for the weekly, you would just enter that, whatever the total is for that week, and submit it. Any time that's saved or submitted is saved directly into Adapt, and so you're able to see that time. You can see a little bit of difference here when you're looking at the meal premium. So because I have the in-outs here, it's showing me what the calculations are for those hours that I've input. If I need to make some adjustments to what the hours are that are being paid and billed here, once I get into Adapt, I'd be able to do that. But it's showing me the meal premiums, if there's any that are calculated for California. And in this case, there were 2. And so it's giving you the indication as to what days of the week that those meal premiums pertain to try to give some more visibility into that. So now let's talk about it from the contact side. The contact, once the candidate has submitted their time, will receive a notification. That notification may look like this. It's customizable in our Manage Notifications area, but that particular notification allows you to customize the text, and you can add a link for the contact to either view the specific time card that's been submitted, or that notification can also include a link that will take them directly to the list of time that's waiting for approval. It does require sign-in credentials to access that information for data security protection. So in this case, I'm going to flip over to the contact workflow. And we'll see, here's one that I just received and here's an example of that notification. And again, this text is all customizable. You've got merge fields that you'll be able to include for either a link directly to the timesheet, or if you want to give a link directly to the timesheet itself or to the list. And for this, I'm going to log in as the contact. And that takes me to the approval dashboard. So you'll see it's similar to what the view was for the candidate. You've got your in process and you've got your completed. So the in process for the contact is going to be that time which has been submitted. So there's the contact can view a downloaded copy of the timesheet with the information that's included, that's been submitted, or they can go directly to the timesheet itself and review the information that's been submitted there. And they can also view the copy of that timesheet report from there as well. I believe I have one of these that I included an attachment. So in this particular case, where this employee has submitted their time, they also submitted an attachment as well. And I can download that and pull that attachment up so that I can take a look at what I might need, the information that I may need to make that determination as to whether or not to approve. On the payroll dashboard, they also can see the completed, if there are ones that they've already gone through the approval process. And because the completed time can keep going on and on, we're giving a date range so that they can, if they're wanting to look at completed time for a specific date range, they can do so. Within the timesheet dashboard for the contact, they do have the ability to just select an individual one and say, you know, approve this selection, and that will allow them to approve it. If they want to say they wish to, let's say I want to reject this selection and say, you need an additional attachment, and then that will send that rejection to the candidate. Or I can reject all or approve all. So if in this case I only have two, but if I wanted to approve these, then this will, it gives me a warning. And so then I can approve those, and now I'm done. So let me flip back over. So again, for the contact, they are notified. You can allow them to go to the timesheet list or directly link to the timesheet. They can view their in process or completed. They can view their time details. If they do approve with the reject notes, and I'll go back just for a second to the candidate view. I can get there, go back to his dashboard. And we'll go find out. So this is telling me that this was rejected. It's telling me that I need to correct my meal break on the 15th. So if I go here and I look, what have I done? I've clocked out for my meal at 11:30, but I clocked right back in at 11:30. So I just need to fix that. PM, and then I can submit that again. And so then the contact would receive their updated approval. And so that's ready to go. So that from a contact and a candidate point of view, going through the time and approval workflow. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the differences between Compass time entry and approval and the web portal time entry. So if we look at the in-out methods of time entry, the Compass time entry does handle the multiple in-outs for each day. And it allows the candidate to put their out reason, indicate that as they're going throughout the week. On the ability to add daily notes, now that is both in the Compass portal and the Classic web portal. We have had some questions with regards to vacation and sick. While the Classic web portal did have an indication for sick, it did not use the eligibility module. And so because time has to be time that they're taking for sick leave or for vacation has to be qualified with the through what they have eligible. The ability to add vacation and sick is done via notes or a send message, and we'll talk about send message in a moment. So they can still make those requests. It's just done a little bit differently. For adding expenses, you saw that I added attachments for that, and the candidate can either add a note, as I showed you on the time entry, or they can send a message as well to the candidate. I'm sorry, to the contact. Send a message to the contact at the agency, their recruiter account manager, to have that approval. Within Compass, the ability to add timesheet attachments is there. So if they need to add an expense report, if they need to add some sort of backup, if they need a picture of their signed timesheet, if you have them just inputting that weekly, but you need to have that backup recorded. They can add those attachments, and those attachments are visible within ADAPT core application. The ability for the contacts to mass approve, mass reject is there. In this case, when the candidate gets the rejection, they are viewing the notes so that they know what they need to do to react to that, whatever changes that they need to make. Also customizable notifications. So the ability to word those notifications the way that you need them to be, to work for your processes. You can set that up again within Manage Notifications to be the way that you need. In addition, there's the ability to resend approval notifications and to a contact. So if you're trying to get time approvals in and you're still, having some of those approvers that are lagging behind, you do have the ability to resend those approver notifications. Different time entry formats. So in addition to the in-out, there's also the ability to submit weekly. And we call that weekly, that's the version of the timesheet, but it does support the weekly supports other pay frequencies. For the Compass mobile portal, we also support setting of the rounding option, and this is under system settings, so that you can determine for your agency whether or not you're going to round to the minute or whether you're going to round to the quarter hour. We also have the California Meal Premium option, and if this is something that for some reason in your business purposes you wish to not enforce that California Meal Premium and you want to do that manually, there is a setting you can contact Bullhorn support to turn that off or disable that so that you can handle that manually. Within the Compass portal, we also do have the ability for the candidate or the contact to reset their own password. So they can just use the forgot password and it will allow them to change their password. I'll talk about that in a moment. Also in Compass, their password is private. So from a security standpoint, the person that knows what the candidate's password is or the contact's password is only them. And that protects you from, from them coming to say, somebody's, messing with my account. So the candidate or the contact sets their own password and it is encrypted in the database and kept secure. So let's talk about some additional features in the ADAPT Compass mobile portal. There is also sign up, and sign up, you may think of this as register from the candidate, from the Classic portal, Classic web portal. That register process on the Classic web portal was quite extensive. The sign up process for ADAPT Compass is very simplistic. It requires first name, last name, and either the mobile phone or email. It does not require an email, but it requires either a mobile phone or email for them to be able to set up. And so this would be for new candidates who are coming in to ADAPT. Also, there's send message. So from any place within logging into the portal, the candidate has the ability to click this little menu item here to send a message. If they, just send it, if they send it from the timesheet, because again, as we were talking about requesting sick pay or vacation pay, it automatically references what week ending date they're talking about and what assignment they're on. And it sends it directly to the recruiter or account manager associated to that assignment so that they get that. And the message is also visible on the timesheet as well. However, they do have the ability to send message not being in a time when they're entering time. They can just send a message, like, I don't see my assignment in the list or something of that nature, and that will go to their recruiter so that there can be follow-up. We also have the ability for the candidate to auto-populate from a resume. If you do not have onboarding, there are a couple of agency apply options. If you are wanting to have a candidate fill out some additional information when they are signing up with your agency, then you can certainly utilize one of the standard applies. There's two options. One is where the resume is required, and the other is where the resume is not required. And basically what it will have is the ability for the candidate to enter, in addition to the information that they provided on the sign up, also get their skills certification and their address contact information. So it very much streamlines the registration process. So that's for the standard applies. Once they hit auto-populate, if that information is available on their resume, it will auto-populate that into the information that's being presented on the screen. They also have the ability to update their profile. And so this would be the basic contact information. Again, there's also the ability for them to update their resume here, put their most recent resume, update skills manually, view jobs that they have applied for. And then there's some settings. The settings here, without onboarding, it's going to be pretty much them being able to establish some questions, security questions, in the event that they forget their password, or they're unable for some reason to sign in, or they don't have an email address. There will be questions that they could, security questions that they could answer to still get in. There's also job search and apply within the mobile portal. And this allows for the candidate to search for jobs either by keywords or from locations. And then they can view the information. They can drill into that job, review the information about that job, and they can apply. And once they apply, it will keep up with the fact that they've applied for that. So if they were to, try to apply again, they can't apply again. It already knows that they've applied for the first time, but it shows them that they've applied versus giving them an error saying you can't apply again. In addition, there's also the ability for the candidate to view pay history, similar to what I showed you with the complete under the contact timesheets. They can input a date range for pay slips that they wish to view, and it will present them with a summary of what the pay information was for that particular pay date. And then if they wish to drill in more, they can click on the view, and what the view will do is the view will take them, it will present them with the pay stub that they would have received. So if you were in Adapt and you print out, reprint a pay stub, it's going to be the exact version of that, same as it was in the classic web portal. Again, there is also the optional onboarding module with eSignature, and that would allow you to set up, if you were to go that route, allows you to set up more customized versions of the application and onboarding process that you wish to take candidates through. We're not going to go through the onboarding process today in this session. But there's more. So there's also supplier, the ability for the supplier to log in and view approved timesheets. They also can view released jobs, and so they can drill into those jobs to get more of the detail about them. If they wish to submit candidates to that job for consideration, they can do that. There's also the auto-populate feature that exists there for the submitting the candidates. And when they submit those candidates, that will create a supplier candidate profile. And then the supplier can also view the candidates that they have submitted so that they can follow their progress. From the supplier candidate side, so they have the ability to log in as well, so that they can enter their time on a mobile device as well. So said that with the mobile device, just keeping in mind that all of the functionality that I'm showing you, the candidate could perform on a desktop or on a tablet or on a mobile device. From a standpoint of all the roles, so candidate, contact, supplier, supplier candidate, when you're granting that access, and I alluded to this a moment ago with the sign up process and the privacy of the password, there is the ability to sign up with code. So if you have candidates, or, well, of course you would have the contacts, the only way that they will get in is through the sign up with code. But candidates that are already in your in Adapt, and especially, so you've got candidates on the web portal now, if you still have them on the web portal, you can use the sign up with code to allow them to set up their username and password. And so basically, and I was going to show you this as well. So basically in the application, and I'm on a contact now, so I would go to the self-service and I would just say generate code. I say to send the email, and it will pull up that email. And again, this notification is customizable with those merge fields. But what this would do is once they click this, once they click the, in mine, they can jump to, and it's that URL is built such so that it takes them, oh, I'm sorry, I have to sign out. It's because I'm playing many roles. I'm playing many roles here, so it still wants me signed in here. So I'm going to do that one more time. Get the other one, the URL. So it has taken me here, and it has already put in the code that I need to say that this is who I am. And so for this person, I'm going to create the username and password for them. And that's basically all I need to do. and then it, I think it's taken me, oh, it's taken me to, hold on, we'll talk about this in a moment. And this is also happening because I am playing both the role of the candidate and the contact, which would not happen in real life. It only happens in our test environments here. So basically, the contact would follow that, and they would move on to set up what their user would be. Also, if they need to reset their password, they can use the forgot password feature, which would simply take them and allow them to enter either their username or their email address. So if they don't remember what their username is, they can just put the email address that they would have used so that they can reset it. If a candidate doesn't have an email address and they don't know your username, then you can generate a reset password, and you can send them a code. You can send them the code themselves. If they don't have an email, you could take that email that is generated, and you can text it versus emailing it. So let's talk about transitioning, okay? Because there's a lot that I've shown you already, but there's a lot of implications around making that transition from the classic web portal to Adapt Compass. So what we're trying to provide you here is a bit of a transition checklist to kind of help you think through what those items are that you need to consider and make sure that you're addressing as you go through it. First off is choosing a transition timeline. So you want to determine how you're going to roll this out to both candidates and contacts who you want to use the Adapt Compass mobile portal. You can do that maybe by branch if you'd like. You might do that by client. We have had agencies who wanted to do it by client. So they had lots of candidates at a particular client, and so they wanted to, orient them with that transition process and communicate that to them, and then move from there. Or if you have a lot of candidates for a particular branch that and you want to transition them all at once, you may choose to do it that way. You may choose to just set a deadline and do it for everyone, but that's completely up to you. But you do want to set a deadline. You want to set a deadline because you want to ensure that all the time, for whatever group that you're doing this for, all the time from the classic web portal is submitted and approved before you say, hey, you're not putting any more time in the classic web portal. This is the cutoff. From here on out, you're going to start using Compass. Because the candidates on the classic web portal need to be able to have all of their time entered and saved, because they may do that throughout the week. The classic web portal is, they put in the time every day for that week. And then the contacts need to be able to review and approve that time that's been entered through the classic web portal, okay, before you transition that over. This is because the entry formats are not viewable across platforms. So if they enter time in the classic web portal, that time is not viewable in the mobile portal. Okay, it's viewable in Adapt always, but it's not viewable across the platform. So if a candidate enters time in Adapt Compass, it's viewable in Adapt Compass. If they enter it in the classic portal, it's viewable in the classic portal. Okay, consider that the Adapt Compass presents with in-out reason or weekly, and the classic portal only supports in-out break. So as I said before, time entered in the portal, in either portal, is always available. And the way that it's available within Adapt is going to be in the way that it was entered. So if it was entered in the Classic Web Portal, it's viewable as in-out break and adapt. If it's entered in the mobile portal, it's going to be whether it was entered weekly or in-out reason. It just depends on which way the candidate entered it. Same with when it's entered directly into adapt. So that is very important, to choose your transition timeline. And in doing that, you want to take a look at your portal options. So for the mobile portal, we have in administration, manage Compass portal options. This allows you some ability to make some changes, some customizations to what is presented on the screen. So, the text that is there showing, when they're trying to sign in, you have some control over what that looks like and what verbiage is going to be showing on the screen to help guide your candidate or contact's experience. You also have ability to determine whether the branch selection is required. You also have the ability to choose a duplicate check method for the mobile portal platform, and the agency apply or job apply method. If you don't have onboarding, this will only show you the standard. You can only use the standard applies there. Also, you have the ability to indicate what functions are available on the mobile portal. So if you don't want to use contact time approval and you're just going to approve that, within Adapt, or if you, for some reason, don't want to show pay history, you don't have to do that. That's up to you. You have the ability to set these functions on the Compass mobile portal. There are also system settings that you'll want to review. So those system settings are very similar to what you would have set for the Classic Web Portal. So whether or not you want to allow additional web time. So if you only want to allow the candidate to enter one timesheet for the week, but there's some agencies who want an additional web time card to be available to be entered. So that works as it did in the Classic Web Portal. Whether you want to group the time that's coming in from the portal by date, or whether you want it to come in one timesheet per batch, you can do that. I mentioned the ability to set the in-out rounding method, so you can set that either to minute or to the quarter hour. And then there's also the enforcement of time card approval at post, and those items work as they did with the Classic Web Portal. But you do want to review those to make sure that that is set the way that you want it. Also, there's the ability for you to set the notification default sender. That's an option in the administration, and so that's so that you can set the no reply email that's going to be used when sending out notifications. So when they go to the candidate or the contact, it's what you want that to read. It defaults to no reply at whatever your domain name is, but you can change that. Then you want to make sure that your notifications are set up. So notifications, and there's many of them, are not set up out of the box. They have to be added before they're used. But in order for you to go through that workflow seamlessly, and for that to work as expected, you want to make sure to set up these notifications. We're trying to give you some assistance here, and we'll talk about that in a second, but they do need to be added before they're used. So there are internal notifications and there's external notifications. Internal notifications are notifications, and you may be using these, already. There's internal notifications such as when a candidate is assigned to a job, it gets sent to the account manager or recruiter. Those types of notifications, the internal user needs to subscribe in order to receive them. External notifications are going to go to candidate contacts, could go to supplier contacts, but they have to have an email in order to receive that. So recruiters and account managers can be CC'd, but again, for the external notifications, if the candidate doesn't have an email, there is an option there for you to add an email that someone would get to notify them that this person didn't get their email. It's customizable layout on the text and the email subject that you want to go out, and there's a whole host of merge fields that you can use. They're if you pull them up from the online help, they're very easy to copy and paste into the screen. And that's just showing you an example of the copying the account manager and recruiter. And then this is just wanted to kind of give you an idea of some of the notifications that you want to set up specifically around time entry and approval. The Compass candidate sign up with code, that's what I showed you the one for contact. But this is one you would want to set up so that when you do, when you're trying to get them to go sign up with the code, that will give them that information and guide them. This new candidate from portal, this would give them a success confirmation when they sign up. And then the candidate timesheet approved. So once the contact approves their time, they can get a notification on that. If it's rejected, they can get the notification on that. And then if they have requested to reset their password, this is what you want to use in order to send them a link to complete that reset. And then there's also a success confirmation. For the contact and supplier contact, there's the ability to set them up. So that's you can set that notification up, and this is their success confirmation. This is the timesheet approval needed. So when the time is submitted, or if you resend that approval, then they get this approval needed notification, and then the reset password request. We do have, when you get a copy of this presentation, we've got in the appendix of this document some sample text. If you wish to use that as a starting point, to cut and paste for some of these notifications to try to make it a little easier for you. Some other ones that are outside of the time entry and approval are the candidate applied, release, or submitted, and then some of the onboarding items as well. And this is just an example of some text that you might want to use for a sign up with code. But as I said, there's others that are available in the appendix. So then you want to also make sure to set up your time entry format, because now with the mobile time, you have, you can either use in, out, or weekly. But in, out is the default because that was what was used on the classic web portal. So if you do nothing, then everyone will just be entering in, out reason. So if you wish to have to set some of your folks up so that they can enter just the total hours for the period, then you can do that on the job area. That's where the time entry format lives, and it would be valid for all of the assignments underneath that job. we know that approvers are specified on the assignments, and that, you shouldn't have to worry about those approvers. They, that they still will get the notification. But we do have those items are available to be viewed either on a job search result or an assignment search result if you're wanting to kind of do an audit for those to see where you might want to make changes. So you can utilize the search results to be able to do that. Just a couple things about the time entry format. In-out reasons only valid for weekly pay frequency. That was the same in the classic web portal. We already talked about it being multiple in-out entries for the day, and the weekly format is valid for various frequencies, and it's just the total hours for the selected period. So that's reviewing the time entry format. And then very important is thinking about generating the logins for the Compass portal. Now, as we spoke, usually user credentials are going to be needed for candidates to be able to enter time on the mobile, and it's also needed for contacts to approve time on the mobile. Typically, in your everyday, as you're moving through, through getting new people set up, that typically would be done by doing a generate code either from the contact or the candidate. But during the transition, we do have some scripts that are available to you through Bullhorn support to help you through that process. One thing you need to keep in mind is that the scripts don't send notification, because it's the bulk thing for you to say, here I'm transitioning, and you wouldn't want the normal notification anyway, because it's a transition time. So the scripts are going to provide the username and a starting password, but you want to set up an initial communication that is going to, give the instructions to your candidates or your contacts about, how this is going to work and what they need to do, what that starting username and password is going to be. And then also that should instruct them to reset their password upon first login, because you're giving them that starting password just for them to get in and get started, but you want them to set their own passwords moving forward. And when you're doing that communication, and you saw this in my example, the users that you're going to have on the Compass mobile portal are going to be either a candidate or a contact. They're typically not going to be both. So the URLs that you give to them are different. The ones that you're going to give to a candidate are they're very similar, but this one is going to have the word account in it, and the ones that are used for the contacts have contact in them. So when you are making your communication, you just want to make sure that you are providing the right URLs to the right individuals. For the contact script, again, we had talked about determining your groups. That can be run for a single branch or all, or it can be run by client. And it's going to create a contact user. It's going to create contact users for those who are approvers or backup approvers on active jobs. So it's not going to create it for everybody. It's going to create it just for those that you've got as active on active jobs. And their initial password is just going to be password 123, and then they will go and reset that on the mobile site. For the candidate script, it can be run for a single branch or all. And this, we needed to be a little bit more deliberate about creating the username and password to keep that a bit more secure because of the information that the candidate may be providing on the site, etc. So this script will create the user using an email address for the username. It will construct that first password. So you're not going to send them saying password 123. You're going to say your password is, the first two letters of your first name and the first 3 letters of your last name plus the last 4 of your social. And that way, that's something that they know, and it's not something that would easily be guessed by someone else as an initial password. But then again, you're instructing them to reset that once they get on the password, on the portal. And this particular script will then, when it creates the Compass user, it will deactivate the web portal user. So it's creating for candidates, it's not creating it for everybody. It's creating it for candidates who have an active web portal user, but don't have a Compass user. So that is the logic that it is using. And so scripts use SSN to help create if you don't store SSN advice support. It also uses email address. So if they don't have an email address or a tax ID, then you might have an exception there and you might have to create those guys manually. We do have a quick search available to deal with the remaining records. So it's for the candidates. We don't have one of these for contact, but you can run it to see who you've got out there who have an active web portal, but don't have Compass login credentials. And you could do generate code for those and go through the normal notification process, but it does not deactivate the web portal credentials by doing it that way. So that is a mouthful, but this it takes you through that transition checklist to hopefully help you be ready to go. And so with that, I know we're really close, but I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks, Deborah. We are very close to the end, so maybe just a question or two here. Okay. This first one says, can you customize rounding per client, or do we have to set that as a whole for all clients?
It's set for a whole for all clients. It's not by client.
Awesome. Thank you. Looks like this question might be split into 2. It says, when a candidate has multiple job orders for the week and happens to work OT, how is the OT calculated? And as we pay in a blended rate, can we change the OT rate?
You can, just as you do today. So one difference, so they can still enter time for both. The overtime is not being presented on that mobile portal to the candidate. It will come into Adapt, and you'll be able to see again the calculated time and the calculated overtime. But then in that bottom section, you have the ability, just like you see in the section there is just like you see in the weekly timesheets, where you can pay this much overtime, bill this much overtime. You know, you have the ability to make those changes.
Thank you. Let's just do one more here. It's because 3 p.m. ET. This question says, send message. It's my experience that it goes to the recruiter on their front screen. Could it also go to payroll?
It does not. No, it doesn't go to payroll.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Deborah. So I'm going to end it there since we're at time. But as a reminder, we will be sharing the webinar recording with all attendees within the next 24 hours in case you missed anything. And in that email, we will also send a copy of the slide deck that Deborah presented today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.